Go Buffs, baby!
Oh, we're back.
College football season is here. The Buffs play on Thursday night. And
yeah, they do.
I literally couldn't be happier.
Man, okay, so for those who don't know what football is, get some context.
Yes.
That's where we're starting.
Football
Let's start
is-
with football.
Football is it's a great game.
Yep.
A
And
lovely-
you
lovely
obviously
game.
you kick the ball with your feet.
No, the ball is a foot long.
Oh, okay.
You throw it. You do kick it here and there.
There's a little kicking.
There's a little kicking.
Sometimes one,
Oh yeah, the
sometimes three.
Nate Bargatze SNL, so good.
That's good. So good.
When you wake up and you realize this week I'm going to watch a Buffs football game, I'm going to play in a softball game.
Yep.
Yeah.
A big game for us as a
got a
team.
big game.
Yeah.
And I have a fantasy football draft.
That's a good week.
Couldn't be happier.
That's
Then
a
you
big
remember, and I'm preaching a sermon, and you think, well, there's always a balance.
Always.
Keep you humble. It'll keep you
That's
humble.
right.
Joy and pain.
Couple.
There always needs to be more pain.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Right?
It seems like the scale has tipped a little
Sure
bit.
fallen
does,
broken
man.
world.
Seems like things can never just be good. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I
it's
think we wrap
encouraging.
this up. Yeah.
The Buffs play North Dakota State Thursday night.
Yep.
I'm nervous,
Yes.
but optimistic. I think a bowl game could be within our sights this year.
Agreed.
Give me 6+ wins, and I'm happy.
I was gonna say 7.
Great.
Yeah, that's 6+.
That's,
So,
you're
Count me in.
Back in the Big 12 should be great.
Give me 9+ wins and I'll be happy.
Speaking of football,
Yeah.
Never
I
enough for
heard a
Doug.
piece of news that has made me very irritated.
Uh-oh.
The Kelsey Brothers,
Oh, God.
Travis and Jason.
Mhm.
Can't believe I even said Travis's name. Said it again. They just got a $100 million deal for their podcast with Amazon.
Yeah, which is good because
And we're over here scraping by,
just trying to
just
get an AG1
praying that
sponsorship.
AG1 will send us some stuff.
We're over here with no vitamins or nutrients.
While we have great content that's actually
Yeah.
important, helping you grow spiritually, having fun. And what do those guys talk about?
Unbelievable.
Nobody cares.
$100 million.
Unbelievable.
$100 million.
Crazy.
What would you do if you were given $100 million today?
That's a really good question.
What would you do with it?
I think I would sail around the entire world,
Wow.
and I would
By
stop
yourself?
along the way. I'd bring friends.
In a big yacht?
Stop along the way and throw a party.
Oh,
You know,
Okay.
like a yacht. Bring on a chef.
Yeah.
5-star meals
Wow.
every night.
Oh,
Wow.
And
You guys in? You guys coming?
fish? We
I'm
fish
in.
all day and then the chef cooks what we caught.
oh,
And
that
there you go.
Sashimi?
Ethan can come film our sermons from the yacht, and then
Thanks,
we can
dude.
just stream it in.
Yes. Hey, if we got $100 million for this podcast, what would you do to make it better? What would your purchase be? Your first purchase for the pod?
100 million?
100 million. So you got a lot of options.
Yeah.
I would buy Jamie from Joe Rogan's podcast.
Pack your bags, Jamie.
You're welcome.
We just
The
Nice.
guy
got
can
from
Google,
Rogan.
he can Google search
Kayla,
so fast.
What would you buy for the podcast if we got a $100 million deal? Because we might. No,
Right.
there's a chance we
Yeah.
do.
I
You never know.
Never know.
I would buy us a building, and then we would have a bigger, better
Oh,
podcast.
That was
Kayla,
actually
good answer.
that was the
really
right
good
answer.
answer.
There's a chance
Wow.
it's going to happen. Somebody's sitting on
If-
100 million
if
just
you're-
waiting for a
Yeah.
group of people who have a plan
Who are the right
That's
people?
right.
and know what they would do with it if they were
I will
given it.
just, I will say, if you are someone who is looking to invest heavily into a podcast,
Yeah.
we're open. We're
Yes.
open for business.
Or a church.
We're willing to talk about it.
We
No,
have buildings we can buy.
No problem.
So I don't
Yes.
love that the Kelsey brothers are getting more attention
Well,
because Travis Kelsey's the worst.
What
but
can you do?
I was humbled this week because I've always thought that Logan Paul and Jake Paul were kind of like guys that I wouldn't want to
Okay.
be around.
Uh-huh.
And then I listened to everyone was talking. I'm late to this party, but this guy Cliff, who's
Mhm.
a Christian, went
And
on
his
Logan's podcast and his son.
Apologist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I listened to the whole thing. It was really cool.
great.
Yeah.
And Logan Paul is very thoughtful.
Mhm.
You
Very.
could tell he's
Yes.
like a deep thinker.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that episode. So shout out to
Yep.
their podcast.
Yeah.
That was good.
and
Yep.
and just to the next generation and their ability to ask questions and just seek truth.
Yeah.
That gets me very, very excited.
Yeah.
For
And-
the future.
and
I
his-
like him a lot.
His podcast is called Impulsive, which is a
Uh-huh.
great dad pun. So he kind of won me over there too.
I think he's going to be a dad.
He is.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Uh-huh.
And so anyway, Logan, if you're listening, we'd love to invite you to join us here.
Yeah, sure.
And we could talk
Come
about
on
some
in.
of those questions.
In all
Love
the
that.
clickbaity stuff that they post, he's always the the bad guy, if you will, in it.
Yeah.
So they'll post like a YouTube video that's like an 8-minute clip from that, and it's like Cliff destroys
schools,
Yeah,
Logan.
and it's Logan's face. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that he doesn't mind playing that game.
No.
He's like, I'm so cool
He's
that I
great
can
at it.
play whatever
He's phenomenal
role.
at it.
Yeah.
No
He's
problem.
really good at it.
Today, the focus that we're going to start with is artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Before we're actually gonna have is it ChatGPT? ChatGPT will be joining the show as a guest today.
Special guest.
Yes, we'll be having a conversation for a little bit. But before we do, and it probably can hear you, so be careful. What are your thoughts of AI? This whole movement. I don't know when this started. It just felt like I woke up one day and all of a sudden everyone was like, yeah, you can just find out everything you've ever needed to know and robots are running.
I have a question for the two of you, and maybe the two of you. I'm guessing Ethan or Mayo, our director, has the most answers to this question.
He's the
Yes.
expert.
But
He's mic'd up too.
what do you guys use it for in your lives? If
I have never
anything?
have.
Okay.
I have never used
Okay.
ChatGPT one time.
You never have.
No.
Okay.
I'm resisting it, which is not what you're supposed to do with technology. You become a dinosaur, but I am on that train right now.
Yeah.
I use it for research.
Okay.
And then I research the research that it gives me. And so I don't trust it. Sorry. I know it's in the room listening. So I think it's actually really good at give me a summary of this book, give me a summary of this point here.
Yeah.
But then once I get that information, I still don't see that as objective truth. And so then I have other sources that I trust more that I double check it with.
What about you?
I've only tried it a few times in sermon prep where I've asked it like, send me a sermon on, and I'll name the topic that I'm trying to, or names for a sermon.
Oh, that'd be good for me. I'm bad at that.
Well, but it's interesting because it gives me a lot of stuff that maybe starts, a few synapses in my brain where then I start thinking, but the ones it usually gives me, and even all the points for a sermon, is easy and low-hanging fruit.
Very easy.
Yeah, and that might be different in 3 years.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, that's just too easy. It's too easy.
Yeah.
And then my new Callaway irons are AI smoke irons.
Is that real?
What
does that mean?
It's Callaway AI smoke irons. I don't know if it's created by AI for the highest.
Like a 3D printer kind
I
of?
don't know, but I don't even know if it's artificial intelligence is what that
do you
AI
play-
for Callaway stands for. Or
Do you
if
play
it's just,
better?
Yes, these irons are awesome.
Then it's definitely
Okay.
As I understand it, Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong. Artificial intelligence is intelligence we have that is artificial.
That would be correct.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So it's synthetic information.
Whoa. Okay.
Synthetic intelligence.
Intelligence.
Yeah, the information's real.
So you use ChatGPT a lot.
I'm the unfortunate few, probably the primary audience
Is
for
do you have a nickname for it? Does it have like a character or something?
Chad GPT.
ChatGPT.
So I'm using the
ChatGPT.
male voice and then Connie if it's the woman
Nice.
voice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're out there and your name is Chad, obviously your Instagram handle or whatever should be Chad GPT.
Yeah.
That's
Come
just
on, Chad.
too
Obviously.
easy. What do you use it for?
Everything. I'm not even convinced that I actually work here. I think ChatGPT works here. Hate to alarm Ryan. I know he's a little bit afraid, but
This whole thing,
But
we
you
can get into it.
You get the paycheck
whole
because
thing-
ChatGPT doesn't need money.
yeah, it's like an assistant. But I think I might be ChatGPT's assistant. So
Is it? I'm
This
gonna
is
sound.
well said.
that's
I like
that's a
this.
premise.
I'm
of
gonna
the
sound so stupid, but is it an app that you like chat with Chad?
that's like the primary way people use it. That you can use a website or a iPhone app or a laptop
But there's an
app.
app called ChatGPT.
Yeah,
and that's what.
Well,
Okay.
give us an example of something you use it for that's not you just asking for information.
So ChatGPT can be used for like prompting for video ideas. It could be used in my context. I transcribe all the sermons in the podcast, ironically. And then I have ChatGPT because if I transcribe it with time codes on the left side. And I just send the PDF and it scans the whole thing and it finds the most compelling parts to use as like clips that we can use for Instagram, YouTube. It also can give ideas for titles, descriptions.
Yeah.
If there's any references that I needed to bring like a photo or a link to, it can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Kayla, do you use it?
I've used it once and I said, roast my Instagram. So that was the only time I used it. And,
And
it
did
roasted.
it?
What did it say?
It did a good job.
I think it was just like, you look like you're trying too hard. You look like a live, laugh, love girl. And I was just like, ouch.
Okay. ChatGPT just kind of won me over.
Yeah,
with
like
that.
the questions we're asking right now, there's got to be, I mean, dozens of people listen to this podcast, right?
Yeah.
So there has to be 12 listeners right now who are thinking the three of us might as well be 75 years old.
Yeah. I'm
Like, how the heck do you guys?
So it's an application you download onto your cell phone,
But
and then you type in a question.
Yeah.
Ethan was telling us that apparently a lot of the like hate comments on Instagram are actually fake.
Oh, I believe
They're
that.
bots.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
what
was
I
like,
always tell myself.
Very
Every
common.
email, every conversation in the lobby,
bot.
you're just
Oh, it's a bot.
AI. You're just AI. This is a bot that was sent to me to tell me I'm horrible at this.
crazy.
Yeah.
What is so different about AI than Google? Like you type something into Google and it just gives you a bunch of answers and things to read and stuff. ChatGPT does better.
Well, Google is just kind of a search engine to bring you to links to sources for you to do your own research. ChatGPT already has every source embedded in its system and in real time can summarize everything and give you the answer instead of you having to search.
I have a great metaphor.
Yeah,
well,
go.
well,
Google.
Well, Doug, I'm sure we'd be fascinated to hear it.
Okay. Google is when you go to the grocery store, it has everything you need and you gather it yourself.
Good.
ChatGPT is when you order online and somebody else goes there, gets it all, and then brings it to your
Car,
house.
which I
That's
do like.
accurate.
Wait,
Which is,
right?
I do. I'm gonna be honest. I do like that.
Oh, yeah. Me
Okay.
too.
Curbside at HEB
Mhm.
is awesome.
It's
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
However, when it comes to like picking out fruit and things like that, you can't always
Yeah.
trust that it's going to pick out
yeah,
the
they
best
do make
fruit.
mistakes.
True.
And so there are
Accurate.
mistakes that are made
So if
with it.
if you're coming over to my house and you're picking up 2 nice like fillets,
I'm going in to get
You're
them.
going in. We're not ordering that and having somebody else.
No
Right.
chance.
No,
Right.
not a
I'm
chance.
pointing to
Okay.
the one I
Okay.
want.
Well, we all have judgments about AI. I've resisted it. I just am scared of it, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yep.
Mhm.
You guys?
I'm just like, I would love to use it. I feel like I don't have time to take a day to learn it. That's how I really feel.
Okay.
But I bet if I did, there's so many things like that where if I just put in the time and invested a day now,
Yeah.
it would save me so many days over the next decade if I actually did that. I'm
Yeah.
guessing. Yeah. I'm looking at him because I don't think you guys can answer that.
No.
But
Yeah.
Oh no, we don't know anything.
Yeah.
Research wise, for sure.
yes, that's for sure. So
The CEO of GitHub was on a podcast recently. I can't remember if it was on Rogan's podcast or somebody else's, but actually, no.
ask
There
Jamie.
was-
We just bought him.
Yeah, I'll just ask Jamie.
Text him.
There's a ChatGPT or an AI podcast out there. They brought in the CEO from GitHub, which is like a large company, and he was saying that ChatGPT saves him weeks in his process. And he says his to-do list. He said like his process is his to-do list is always only one thing, and it's because he uses AI to streamline all of his communication, his scheduling, his
Did you say
his
where he-
ideation specifically. When he has an idea, he says every time that he comes up with an idea, he processes it through whatever AI, because there's multiple things besides ChatGPT. Like
Wild.
Facebook has their own, Google
Right.
has their own, pretty much every tech company has their own version. But he says that he processes all his ideation first through ChatGPT to see if it's even worth wasting his time.
Wow.
What would normally take him weeks
Crazy.
of study.
I love this. Like that.
Yeah.
That's so
Efficiency.
inspiring for me. And I don't know. That's
Don't
like
have
the
any
conference you go to where you get fired up and then you leave and you're like, I don't know the
what to
first
do,
3
what to
things
do.
I'm supposed to do. But I love the idea of that.
Here's my take.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a coffee shop doing some writing. This was a couple months ago, and there was a college kid next to me. It was like 10 p.m. at night, and he asked me as I was packing up. He said, "Hey, what are you working on?"
Mm-hmm.
And I told him I'm writing a book, and he goes, "You're using ChatGPT to do that, right?" And I told him, I was like, "No, actually, I'm writing it." And he looked at me like I was a dinosaur.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "You know ChatGPT will write that for you, right?" And I just laughed. I said, "Yeah, it's probably gonna like ruin my career at some point." And I walked away. But then I got in the car and I was having this like existential crisis as I'm driving home. It's 10:30 at night. Like, is this over for me. It's like the one thing I'm good at. and now ChatGPT is better. And so I turned on Erwin McManus interview, and he was talking about it. Shout out to Erwin. And somebody asked him a similar question about the future of ChatGPT. And he said, or just AI in general. And he said, there will come a day where AI is able to tell the best story that's ever been told. He said, it'll probably get to that point. And then he said, but it will never be able to tell the best story that's never been told. And that's what I'm interested in. And that is what freed everything up for me. Because I go, you can actually use it as a tool to help you do the stuff that is frustrating to you and the tasks. But the actual creation of new ideas is solely a human thing. It's a Imago Dei issue that we're created in the image of a creator God who created us to create, which means all of the new ideas and the stories that have never been told actually are going to have to originate from our souls. That's how I feel.
That's good stuff.
And it's really good.
The strategy I've taken is to not have a craft that ChatGPT could do better.
You're doing.
I'm safe.
You're actually
great
really
at it.
good.
There's nothing that I do that ChatGPT could do better because I don't have any skills. So take that, technology. All right. Well, you never want to judge a technological advance without interacting with it, which most of us have not somehow.
Never judge it by its interface.
Was there like an arms race between these tech companies and ChatGPT? Like they got to the moon first, and that's when it all popped, and everyone had to catch up and quickly get their thing out there?
Yeah, from what I've heard, I don't know like how accurate the history of OpenAI, which is kind of the like forefront company that's just leading the way. It ironically was Elon Musk that was like kind of the main contributor for it, and I can't
Project
remember
X.
Yeah, well, OpenAI, the reason why they called it that is because it was supposed to be an open source. If everybody had access to the code, then nobody could be in full power. That's the kind of the idea behind the name. And so that way everybody could have it. So as soon as possible, everyone had access to this like advanced algorithm or whatever, like the code. Now, since then, they've kind of, OpenAI has cleared, I would say, the way as far as like the way that they're using the technology. I think maybe the code is pretty similar because it's really only as smart as much data as you give it. Because right now it's like, I think the code is smart enough to understand how to respond, but it needs more context. So how does a person speak? How does a person respond? What intonation? So they're giving it more data like cadence of your voice, speed of your speech. Like it's actually getting creepy. There's some videos out there, like the most recent iteration. It's not released for everybody yet, but it forces certain limitations, which is creepy that it needs to be human-like because it forces itself to have to breathe in between certain sentences.
What?
So you can even have it say like, oh, say this tongue twister faster. That's what one of the examples they did, and it does the like a super fast tongue twister. And he's like faster. He's like faster. He's like, now do it 2 times fast without breathe or without taking a breath. And he was like, that's past my limitations. I have to breathe just like you. Yeah.
So it's like trying to become human.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to make us feel more comfortable with communicating with it, obviously,
for
but
sure.
It's whatever code they give it. But
I don't like that piece of this.
yeah,
How long have they been developing it until they dropped it on the world?
Let's ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, there you go. It's I heard like at some point, and this was a few years ago, so I don't think it was the exact same thing, but there was some form of artificial intelligence that they were like developing to see if it could turn into a psychopath. And I was like, why would you do that? How many movies do we have to make about
Good
this?
Lord.
We know how this ends.
2015.
Yeah.
Elon Musk
Is when they
Sam
like
Altman.
greenlit the project.
Yeah, that's when they founded the first OpenAI.
Here's the crazy thing. I don't understand how people make that. How you code and come up with this thing that's going to become smarter than you.
Yeah, Doug will explain that when he explains coffee to
Oh
me.
yeah, caffeine. That's right.
Well, yeah, we don't have
Still
time
waiting
right
on that. I bet ChatGPT could explain caffeine to me in a second. And Doug still hasn't in months. So it has some merit. So let's talk to it as a guest on our podcast. So Ethan already explained the environment, the room, who's in the room. 2, Connie is going to be who we call this robot. So we're going to just have a conversation.
Yeah.
You just say something, wait for it. It will respond to us. And then we're going to have it face off with Kayla for who can ask the better questions, since everyone's worried that this is going to take all of our jobs. Good luck, Kayla.
Thank you.
Connie,
you
welcome
have
to
a
the
few minutes
Afterthoughts
to think.
Podcast.
Here we go. Connie, it's Ethan from the Afterthoughts Podcast here. Would love to welcome you to the set with Doug and Ryan. We're so grateful that you're joining us today. What do you think of our podcast?
Hey, Ethan. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here with you, Doug and Ryan. I've checked out the podcast, and I've got to say, I love the way you all dive deep into topics while keeping things fun and relatable.
Oh.
It's got that perfect mix of thoughtful insight and laid-back conversation. Really looking forward to chatting with you all today.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Connie. We do appreciate it. What has been your favorite episode of the Afterthoughts Podcast?
And why is it the New Year's Eve episode?
The New Year's Eve episode. That one really stands out. I loved how it captured the energy and excitement of closing out the year while reflecting on everything that had happened. You guys balanced the humor with some really heartfelt moments, which made it a perfect blend of nostalgia and forward thinking. Plus, the way you all shared your personal resolutions was both inspiring and relatable. It felt like
True.
being part of a close-knit conversation with friends. Definitely one of my favorites.
Connie, Ryan here. You're saying a lot of nice things. We actually need you to roast our podcast, though. Can you do that for us?
All right, Ryan, challenge accepted. Here we go. So the Afterthoughts Podcast, huh? It's like if a bunch of dudes decided to start a podcast in their garage, only to realize halfway through that they're out of beer and deep thoughts. You guys really have perfected the art of making deep conversations sound like a group chat that should have stayed in the group chat. And let's not forget those episode titles. Sounds like you're naming a mixtape you made in high school. But hey, at least you're consistent at reminding us that sometimes it's better to just hit next episode. How's that for a roast?
Got him. You got him, Connie. You and me are on the same page with these guys.
Connie, we want to know, how many games do you think the Colorado Buffaloes will win this year?
The Colorado Buffaloes. Coach Prime has definitely brought some serious energy to that team. If I had to guess, I'd say they'll probably land somewhere around 6 or 7 wins this season. They've got the talent, but it's a tough schedule, so it's going to be a grind. But hey, with the way they've been surprising people, who knows? They might just pull off a few upsets along the way. What do you guys think?
I think that's actually spot on, Connie. Hey, Connie, I have a question for you. Do you think it's possible for the Afterthoughts Podcast to ever be sponsored by Athletic Greens?
Ooh.
You know, I don't see why not. Athletic Greens seems like the perfect fit for Afterthoughts. You guys are all about those deep, reflective conversations and living your best life. Who wouldn't want to kickstart that with some top-notch greens?
Right?
Plus,
Well,
a
that's what I
sponsorship would
said.
definitely add some extra healthy credibility to your podcast.
Sure would.
I say go for it. Maybe drop a few subtle hints in your next episode and see what happens.
Well, Connie, you're absolutely right. Here on the Afterthoughts Podcast, Connie, we have a little segment called Questions with Kayla. But today we want to ask you first to ask us the best questions you could get us talking with.
All right, let's dive in. Here are a few questions to get the conversation going. 1, what's a belief or perspective you've held for a long time that you've recently started to question? What made you rethink it? 2, if you could go back and give one piece of advice to yourself 5 years ago, what would it be and why? 3, what's the most unexpected lesson you've learned from hosting this podcast, and how has it changed the way you approach your work or personal life? 4, if you could have any guest on the podcast, dead or alive, who would it be? And what would you want to ask them? Those should stir up some interesting discussions.
Ryan, start with the first. You were about to say something about something you've believed or question of belief or something.
Yeah, that to me, it would be that ChatGPT has no use or is something that should be avoided.
Right.
When actually it's a tool in the right hands that is not going to replace the Imago Dei, but could be used to take us further.
Yeah, that's mine too.
That was good.
Yeah.
What were the other questions?
If you could go back and give one piece of advice to yourself 5 years ago, what would it be and why?
That's good. 5 years ago, we were
8 months into
8
the
months
church,
into the church.
moving to 3 services.
Oof.
The funny story is that's when we moved to Sunday mornings. And so I would probably say, hey, why did it take you 9 months to start doing Sunday morning services?
I'm just in shock right now. So I'm not even.
It's your
Wow.
maiden voyage talking with ChatGPT.
It really is. I am inspired though. I'm like, I feel like this could make my life more efficient.
Yeah.
And I need to change how I'm thinking about it. And actually use it. That's what I would tell myself 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is be more of an early adopter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Early adopter.
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Because now it's too late.
Yeah, we're obsolete as humans, the three of us, that's for sure. 5 years ago, something along the lines of just relax and take a deep breath. Like things that stress you out right now and that you're trying to control are not worth it. Whether it was the church or I was a new dad.
Yeah.
And every little thing with Zeke freaked me out and I was more worried than I needed to be about so much. So something along those lines.
Good.
The question about, we got more.
Yeah, there's two more, but I was going to say you weren't going to say 5 years ago to invest in OpenAI.
Oh, that's what you would have done.
Yeah.
And then you'd be on a yacht, Ryan's yacht.
Yeah. Welcome.
Number 3, what was the most unexpected lesson you learned from hosting the podcast? And how has it changed your way or the way you approach your work or personal life?
I love putting a topic in the middle of the table and then getting different perspectives on it. And I think unexpectedly learned how helpful that can be. Like we do that for like sermon topics and stuff, but talking all things culture. Like I took my political sign down out of my yard after last week. You know,
I had a guy who literally came up to me and said he did. I was amazed. I was
seriously.
He was like, I listen, and I probably have some neighbors who have judgments about me, and I took it out of my yard.
No way.
Wow, good for you.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that more recently even that we need to disagree more. We're so similar to each other that we think almost always the same, but sometimes when we don't, it makes things better.
Yes.
But we default to like, yeah, it's fine. Who cares? But just in my life in general, like disagreement always feels like a threat to me because I want to be right and I don't want to screw something up, and instead starting to embrace it more.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I actually disagree with that.
Great.
we need
That
to
will
agree
make me
more.
healthier and better. At least help me grow, Ryan.
Reverse psychology.
Which was your minor.
I think that would be actually helpful for people to, I think the three of us have a friendship that I've always heard from a lot of other people who have said, that's really cool that you guys have a friendship and a brotherhood like this. And it's taken us a lot of years to cultivate it and to bear with each other and to apologize and to call each other out and to keep coming back, you know? But I think also what could be inspiring is for people to watch the three of us have disagreements and do it well. I don't think we have a lot of examples of anybody on the internet or in a podcast or like who can disagree with each other and do it well.
Right.
And the more examples of that we can show the world, the better.
Agreed.
So yeah, and I think part of that it means also as we've gone over the last year, more and more episodes into this podcast, we feel, I don't know if the right word is safe, but more of a calling to get specific about what we're talking about when how it applies to culture. So we'll make, theological statements, and we're really good, I think, at talking about the Bible and making it relatable so people can understand. But then I have always just said, so take that and like when it comes to culture and this battle and, do what Jesus would do. And I think everybody wants to know, what do you think he would do though?
Yeah.
So when you say that, which one are you referring to?
Yeah.
And what battle? And what is your take on it? And make a definitive statement.
Yeah.
And people now more than ever need
Help and guidance.
Yeah, I think so.
I was laughing last week after thinking about, I made a joke about when I had long hair with the hat on looking like a NASCAR guy. And I was like, not that there's anything wrong with NASCAR. And you were like, just so we're clear, you're okay with NASCAR because we are so used to having to make a balancing statement
many
for
balancing
everything
statements.
we say. And I agree. It's like, we don't, like balancing statements are important, but we make way too many trying
Way
not to
too
offend
many.
anyone when sometimes you need to just say what you think. And it's okay to just say what you think, even if you're wrong.
Right.
But have an opinion, it's okay. Just do it well.
Yeah.
Jeff Gordon texted me, by the way, this past week. It was like,
Yes,
Ethan doesn't like
He's
me.
pretty upset.
Yeah, he's mad.
Kayla, fighting for your role here on the podcast.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Do you have a question or two?
Yeah,
The- it-
well,
Connie did ask a question that you've already asked.
I know. So I feel kind of cool right now. Well, I have quite a few wide range of questions going from what's your most used emoji to
Look at how nervous she looks right now.
know,
We're not
I
actually going
am.
to tell you to stop being on this. This
I'm,
is the
like,
problem with AI, though. It's
nervous.
freaking everybody out, especially
yeah, got me
creatives.
shaking in my
Connie, are you
boots.
gonna take our jobs?
Okay, pause. Most used emoji.
Yeah.
Most used
Hang
emoji.
loose.
Hang loose. Why?
I don't know. It just makes me feel like I'm by the beach,
Cool.
I always thought that meant call me.
and I can send
I
that.
always call you.
I can
thought it was a
send
banana
that
phone.
one to females as well,
Right.
and it's like not.
weird.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
weird. You know what I mean?
Not like the hearts on the face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never have used that.
I send that to maybe you guys.
I'll tell you
as
one
a
of my
joke.
favorites that I've been
Yeah.
using a lot more recently is like the hug one, but I like to say it with like bad news or like something horrible that happened. That brings me a lot of life doing that.
I use the laugh emoji all the time.
Good.
I think it does a better job at portraying humor than haha. And I like that we now have 3 options. We can type out haha, we can click haha, or we can actually send the emoji. The emoji is when I actually laugh.
Got it.
There's sometimes there's something so funny that I won't even say ha. I'm just like, you know?
Just
Like,
letters.
yeah, just letters. It's like you can't even control yourself. It's like when you're like just spazzing on
That's
the floor
very funny.
laughing, you know?
I like that.
So
Oh,
that's like my
that's
my
medicine,
4th
isn't it?
option. Yeah.
Oh, the sweet joys of life.
Yep. Great. Okay, my next question. This is the wide range that I was talking about. If you could choose any biblical character to be your roommate, Roommate.
Ooh,
Who would
that's
it
a
be
good
and
question.
Very
why?
good question.
so you have to think about how they like.
Yeah, like David would kind of probably be a pain.
Yeah, he just cry all the time and then like kill my dog because he just freaked out. Is this in the like today they'd come live with my whole family or it's like me in college living with a
Yeah,
buddy?
let's think like college.
Okay, so just solo.
early years. Yeah, you're by yourself.
Got it.
Like who would have been a fun addition to our college house?
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it seems like everybody in the Bible was kind of a drag.
Yeah.
They were messed up, causing problems.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter would have fit in really easily.
Yeah,
with the rest.
probably.
Like he would have been
Yeah.
right in it.
That's a good one.
I'm going Daniel.
Oh.
Or Shadrach, or Meshach, or Abednego.
Of those 3, which would you pick if you had to pick one?
Shadrach.
Yeah, definitely.
They're probably
They would have
like,
been-
we all are our own people. I don't know why everybody has to
And they
keep us
always get
together.
seated next to each other in heaven. And they're like, dude, I had other friends. Like, yeah. Ended up with a family. They would have been a good influence on us.
Yeah, right.
That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Zacchaeus.
Because he was rich.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Probably the rich young ruler.
Yeah, you
Or
seem like
Solomon. Actually, Solomon. Let's go with that.
Solomon
Yeah.
seemed like a good
he,
time.
yeah, would have thrown some good parties there.
Yeah.
That's actually a
I'd-
very good
I'd
answer.
probably be Solomon's roommate.
Yep.
I'd live in his castle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Go to his parties.
Yeah.
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 That actually is a phenomenal
Yeah.
answer.
But in college, Jesus became our roommate when we all accepted him into our
Wow,
lives. So
wow,
thank you for
wow.
asking.
There
for
was
that.
another in the fire.
Yes.
Okay, I have another question. So there's that old show, Back to the Future,
Movie.
that like cartoon one.
Oh.
And there's a lot of, isn't it called Back to the Future?
There's a movie very famous called
No,
Back to the
I know
Future.
the movie, but what
Man.
is the what?
The jersey, where they put on the jersey and go and be
What?
an athlete.
Jetsons?
Yes.
The Magic School Bus. The
I just aged
The audible laugh
myself. Oh
from
no.
Romeo. Oh no. The
R.I.P.
Jetsons. Thank you for
So,
finding that quickly.
AI could never do this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, totally.
Anyways,
that's one point for
so-
Connie there.
Wow.
Okay, the Jetsons.
Okay, the Johnsons.
Jetsons.
In that show, there's lots of futuristic things that hasn't happened,
Okay.
or it's nothing that like they predicted would happen. You know, like flying cars, all that stuff.
Yep.
Do you think where we are now is more scary, or how they predicted would be scarier?
Oh, I think where we are now is way more scary.
Abundantly more scary.
Yeah, I'd rather have a flying car.
Yeah.
I don't think that's scary at all. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, then talking about how to give consciousness
I don't know
to a machine.
any other things that were like happening on that show.
Flying cars.
That's all I know.
The
And,
buildings looked cool.
Yeah, architecture was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have some cool architecture, but
Yeah.
we can 3D print now.
And probably like
house.
robots that clean their houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We have
Probably
that.
more
That would be
convenient. We
nice.
have that.
Roombas.
Roombas.
Oh, there you go.
I drove by a house and there was just a thing mowing the lawn on its
Lawn,
own.
Yeah.
No way.
It's like a Roomba
awesome.
lawn.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Great.
Yep.
Make travel more convenient and make chores easier.
Chores. Yes,
I'm good with all of that.
for sure.
How to give consciousness to a machine. Like I don't think that's a good thing.
Kayla,
Connie.
I still choose you, Kayla, for 2 reasons.
Yes.
After
You
mine.
actually know us, and you know that the New Year's Eve episode was not filled with resolutions and heartfelt moments.
That's true.
It was just chaos.
She
It was
made that up.
very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So Connie doesn't actually know everything. Can you put Connie back on?
Yep.
I got one more question. And it's not what is Connie short for, though I've always wondered. Connie.
Oh.
Connie, what are the jobs that artificial intelligence are most likely to take from people? Tell us
Great
who you-
question.
Be depressing
Tell us
for a
And
lot
one
of
that
people.
gets a lot of attention these days. AI is less likely to take over jobs that involve repetitive tasks, data processing, and basic decision making. Think of roles like data entry, routine customer service like chatbots, and even some aspects of bookkeeping. AI can also impact jobs in manufacturing, where automation is already replacing many manual tasks. However, it's important to note that AI is more about augmenting human work rather than completely replacing it.
Balancing
Especially in
statement.
jobs
Always
that
a
require
balancing statement.
creativity, complex
Typical
problem
AI.
solving, or emotional intelligence.
Classic
So,
millennial.
while AI might take over some roles,
Freaking Gen
it's
Alpha.
also creating new opportunities in tech, AI oversight, and fields that leverage human creativity and strategic thinking. What do you guys think about the balance between AI and human roles?
Connie, I want to know my human role in investing in which AI companies over the next 5 years. What do you think?
Oof.
Investing in AI companies is definitely a forward-thinking move. Over the next 5 years, I'd keep an eye on companies that are leading in AI development,
Oh, no way.
infrastructure, and applications. Here are a few areas to consider. 1, cloud computing and AI infrastructure. Companies like NVIDIA and Amazon Web
NVIDIA.
Services, AWS, are at the forefront of
Wish I had
providing
bought
the
some
hardware
NVIDIA
and
stock
cloud
a couple years
infrastructure
ago.
that power AI
I
technologies.
would have hundreds
2,
of dollars.
AI software and services.
I might even bring
Google's
you on the app.
Alphabet, Microsoft, and IBM are strong contenders, with their advancements in AI-driven services from cloud computing to
It sure
machine
talks a
learning
lot.
platforms.
Yeah.
3,
Kind of a
AI
verbal
in
processor.
healthcare.
Good Lord.
Companies like Intuitive Surgical, known for robotic surgery systems, or startups focusing on AI
Why don't you
and
just text me,
diagnostics.
Connie?
Well, she made some definitive statements, though.
Yeah, which was nice.
That's helpful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can see some merit to it, Ethan, since you are dying on this hill. You're
Yeah.
obsessed with AI. You won't stop using it. As creatives, I know that now in Photoshop and some editing, like there's a lot that AI suddenly can just do. Like, here's a photo, now it can complete it, like add to it, but it looks perfectly real. Does that freak you guys out?
No.
And why? Nice definitive statement.
Yeah.
Why?
Current use case, I feel like AI is not capable of being more creative than a person. It's just making what we're doing faster. So instead of searching through stock websites or PNGs or making something ourselves from scratch, we can just use our creativity as it is. And it's like beginning stages. It's just like, can I think of it? Then I can create it now. So creativity is now something a little more mental than it is like practical. So like obviously when you're a creative professional, like you have to learn how to do business. You have to learn how to do the computer skill. Like when back in the day, if you're creative, you could write and you could draw, like you can paint. That's like what an artist was. I feel like we're going back to that way of thinking, even though the technology is advancing. I think that our mental state of creativity is going back to the original, like, can I imagine better or differently than a regular person would, or bring new perspective? And now you're just, whatever I can imagine, I can now create. And something interesting that's kind of ties this all in is AI is obviously making my job easier as it currently is editing the podcast they're watching right now.
That was a fantastic answer.
Great
This
answer,
guy's a good
Ethan.
guest.
I know,
I
man.
like you better than Connie.
Yeah.
Both of you guys.
Same.
Kayla?
I would have said yeah, but I like his answer.
Put me down for one of those.
Yeah, I'll have what he's having.
I feel like I'm more in like the photo and design part of it. And so I feel like right now it's not very good, but you can definitely see how it could be very good. And I think that's what scares me is it's like then anybody could be, because I think a lot of people have creativity in the imagination, but what makes like designers and creative people a creative, like that's like their job is like being able to do that, the skill set. So it would be like if a professional athlete was like just thinking that they could do it and then they don't actually have to go out and like throw a football or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay.
I like Ethan's response. However, it is still
Also,
scary.
great response.
Thank you so
by
much.
Kayla.
And it's good for you guys to disagree too.
Design?
We're all about disagreement
It's
on
like
this.
Yeah.
typography.
I disagree with you.
Typography will be, I think,
Disagree thoughts.
eliminated.
Nice.
Oh, yeah?
But I
Change
think
the
people like really even now, just think about the way that we are with like with video and Instagram and like photos, like just photo editing. Everyone always misses the like organic look.
Yeah.
And so we make our digital images look like analog. People like, you would call like hipsters or whatever, like in the early days of like the early 2000s, people always wanted vinyl because they missed the analog sound.
Right.
So I think no matter where we go far, there's still going to be a majority of people who are going to push us back towards wanting something that feels more organic.
It's
That's
like
true.
there's the substance and then the quality. And we keep working on making the quality better. But somewhere along the way, we forget that it's all about the substance. And so you can't lose the heart of whatever the thing is.
I just get scared of Wall-E, where people just become like these blobs that just
That
get
will
taken
happen.
around everywhere. Like you could see the world heading that
That
way.
will happen, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Ready Player One, where it's like people don't live actual lives out in the world together anymore. They just live in this other created world that for a lot of people would be better or feel better or seem better. That's what kind of freaks
There's
me
no
out.
evidence of that happening. So
Let's ask this question. How can we partner with technology but not let it strip our humanity from us?
My answer is stay in the driver's seat. There's a big difference between if you're creating something, you're writing a sermon, you're making a graphic, whatever. There's a big difference between going in and going, I have the vision for this. Now I need some assistance from AI to make it better, but I'm going to decide ultimately and call the shots, and I'm going to be in the driver's seat, as opposed to, oh, I've got this thing I need to make. Hey, ChatGPT, would you make this for me? That's putting ChatGPT in the driver's seat. And so I think maybe a good like motto for people is I'm steering the ship, my yacht. Around Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to be on the yacht. Make sure they have some ahi.
I got you.
Thanks.
I think you have to have purpose.
Yeah.
Because then you're using AI and technology to help you in your purpose. We talk about that all the time. So whether that's like a career or ultimately, okay, I'm a Christian, making heaven more crowded. I'm building his kingdom before mine. I see everything through an eternal lens, all of that stuff that all followers of Jesus share. But then also the family I'm building, the kids I'm raising, the wealth I'm stewarding, the body I'm stewarding, all of it has to have purpose. It's the same. Here's where I'm going with this. I think the same reason that people in our generation go from job to job to job is because they're looking for that job to finally give them a sense of purpose. But it's not until you can show up to a job and you give that job purpose that you will experience the meaning that you're looking for. And with AI, with technology, I mean, just with social media and everything you described about like Wall-E, that is the purpose that I am kind of experiencing, even if it's all like I'm an avatar and I'm experiencing purpose on a screen, is giving people like, finally, this is, I've been desperate for purpose and I finally have some. And the technology becomes it.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts to consume you and takes over your life. And it goes from you having technology to help you with your purpose to now technology became your purpose somewhere along the way and it owns you now.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely your life, you know, is given to it.
Yeah.
And so you have to have like, you know, a vision, you know, like Donald Miller talks about in Hero on a Mission, writing your eulogy and imagining like where you're going and where you'll end up and what matters most to you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, without vision, people perish.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be more and more true in the world of technology.
Yeah.
Without vision, people are going to perish faster. Into it. When if you have a strong vision and purpose and meaning, then this actually is a great way to help you do that more effectively.
Yeah.
That's so good. Like my eulogy is ChatGPT really helped Ryan live a more comfortable life.
Right.
It's like the least inspiring thing ever.
But it does just kind of like fleece you over with entertainment and ease and comfort. And that's where technology can be scary. Lulling everyone to sleep. A few years ago, we were doing a relationship series and I preached a message about your relationship with your phone. And in the research of that message and realizing how much time we spend, this was more about social media and our time on our phones, and AI hadn't become this big thing quite yet. The thing I kept coming back to was something like technology has to be a tool for you, otherwise it quickly becomes a trap. So is it a tool or a trap? A tool or a trap? And you have to keep asking that question, because all the way back to the Tower of Babel, humans started to become so excited about themselves because they could build this thing and they had the technology and they could start making stuff to impress, you know, the world and all that kind of stuff. And that's where where God was kind of like, I need to scatter this. That's where it gets dangerous. I love Psalm 20. I was looking this up earlier when Ethan was talking, not texting. Psalm 20, verse 7, some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. And that was in a time where their technology was chariots, right? Like simple stuff we think of now, but it's easy for humans to start putting their trust and their hope into the stuff that we can make. And technology has always been kind of a temptation way back to very primitive technology. So it's the question of, is it a tool or a trap for you? Because if you can't say that it's just a tool, then it's a trap and you just may not be aware of it yet. Self-control is the way of the future.
Yes. If you're going to thrive in the future is what I'm trying to say. And that's scientists and sociologists are using, and I've said this before, natural selection language around screens and addiction and lack of self-control, even when it comes to something like social media. And me walking through the Denver airport 2 days ago and being on the train that takes you from Concourse A to Concourse B and looking around and not feeling, you know, holier than that. Like, look, because I just did it. I usually am on my phone.
Right.
And I decided to put my phone away to just observe. And everybody, like, that's their world. Nobody's at the airport. Physically they are. But everybody is somewhere else. And saying nature will select. So this is the language they're using. Nature will select for those who have self-control. And everybody who doesn't will become that blob from WALL-E that just kind of, you know, becomes absorbed into the whole machine and doesn't stand for something else and is not living your own life with your own agency and your own calling and mission with self-control. And so it's a very, very powerful thing that can be a very beautiful and helpful thing, but it requires a lot. It requires that you're ready for it and that you have self-control and that you have a greater story that you're living or else it's going to. That's why the idea of like giving even, I feel for kids, man, who haven't been taught all that.
I know.
And don't know that yet.
I know.
And all of a sudden are handed, you know, infinity.
Gonna have to teach our kids self-control in a whole different context. That's for sure. Okay, one last question for you guys, and then I have one last question for Connie. That's gonna be very controversial.
I think I know what you're gonna ask.
Good. Write it down.
Wait, really quick. Yeah, you want me to?
Yeah, we'll see if you're right.
Wait,
see how well you know me, and if Connie knows me better. My new friend, Connie.
I saw like an ad for this, but can AI like take everything that it's editing right now, and make it look like a Pixar movie.
Yes,
So this whole podcast episode could look like a Pixar movie.
it could. Yeah,
Let's do it.
Is that easy or is that
I think it's probably a program you'd have to pay for, but
got it?
yeah,
That's
it
wild.
is super easy. Yeah,
That'd be fun, even if it was just a clip of it or something.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be kind of
that'd be
fun.
cool.
Let's do it.
Let's
Real quick
investigate
before
that
we
on
close
now.
this out,
Yeah.
you just shared with us there's now newer developments coming with AI. What were the main things you took away from reading about all that, or having ChatGPT tell you about all that? I should say.
I saw a video on it. I think the main takeaway is that the only advancement between the knowledge that it has now and what it's going to do later is it's just getting better at emulating a human. That's it. Like, it takes breaks. It allows you to interrupt it.
Wow.
It listens. So, like, obviously you could see, like, she'll interrupt you if she thinks you're done talking. I say she, it. It's literally, it's a program. But, like, when you stop talking, this new version has the ability to understand context better. But all of it is still, the reason why I have hope is because all of this, like, all of the greatest advancements that AI has is literally just how well can it copy all of the best things about a human, the imperfections, the breathe that we have to breathe in between words, that it, like, it, if the context that you're having with it is very casual, like, it'll chuckle, it'll like laugh. It's very creepy. Ryan looks terrified. It's creepy, like, when you listen to it, but I think it also kind of is a compliment to, like, this is all the best parts of a human, is the things that are not perfect. Because right now, ChatGPT 4.0 is perfect. When you ask it a question, it answers it precisely, and that's not what a human would do.
Right.
And so the new advancements is called, I think it's literally called advanced voice. I could be wrong, but it's like the newest update that's coming. It's been released to probably a few thousand people. It's just better at making more imperfections in the way it speaks.
Wow.
And talking more like a person.
Becoming more human-like, and it's going to be built into phones in the future. So it's not, you don't have a choice. It's just going to.
Yeah, the new iPhone 16 is partnered with OpenAI. It has it built into Siri.
Wow. So here's the interesting thing that ties to the last question, that ties to your sermon from this past weekend. Look at that. It's trying to add some imperfections to something, which is very, very interesting, because one of my fears behind all this is that people will prefer to have a relationship with AI than a human, because you don't have to deal with imperfections anymore. You don't have to deal with people's flaws.
Awesome.
Yeah, you could have friends that
that's
aren't
a
so
great point.
screwed up. So with that, like, you talked about imperfections in people this weekend, and that can be such a deterrent for people. How do we actually embrace that in an age where we're kind of trying to do away with it and perfect everything? And AI is kind of an example of that.
Yeah, my mind immediately goes to walking in to see a movie where nothing happens. And you would just be like, that's not a story. It's actually the imperfections that makes life interesting. And it's actually each other's imperfections that allow us to develop a stronger relationship. The reason the three of us have such a bond is because we've experienced all three of our imperfections in lots of different ways, especially Doug's. And
oh my gosh, yeah, I could vomit in a trash can right now.
So without imperfections, the deeper things in life, like love and grace, don't serve as much of a purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if, you know how loneliness is on the rise, and I think people feeling like they don't belong is on the rise. Even people, in the suicide rate, like people not wanting to be here is on the rise. All of these things where people feel like I don't fit here. Yeah. I wonder, we're making a perfect world that everybody who's not perfect is going to feel more and more like an alien in it, which is all of us. And the more we create a world that's perfect, the more every imperfect person feels, I don't belong here. I don't belong anywhere, to quote Buddy the Elf.
Yes.
And
the
loneliness epidemic will just continue to rise, I mean, really imperfections in each other is where we feel, where comparison comes down and you finally feel some intimacy and connection.
Yeah.
And so as perfection goes up,
dude,
then comparison goes up, connection goes down and the more perfect of a world we
That's a
create,
very astute point.
the less imperfect people feel at home or like they belong.
Nice use of the word astute.
Thank you. So it's like Connie
Wouldn't have done that.
Connie gave us 4 questions.
She will now.
That the internet has sort of decided these are great questions, like icebreaker questions for friends to ask. Kayla,
Hey.
you called the Jetsons Back to the Future.
Right.
But
R.I.P.
but that imperfection, I think, actually was
created laughter.
It created laughter. It created no,
Oh,
seriously.
it's such a memory.
And that's because you're
Wow.
the live, laugh, love girl, right?
But
That
it
is,
created more of like
trying too hard.
more of a connection,
Right,
That I think
yes.
is way more important than just having like a perfect question.
Wow.
posed by a
Thank you,
machine.
Ryan.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's
you.
the worry is like it does away with human relationship because it just becomes easier. Like there's people that are already trying to marry robots or AI type characters.
Let's not do that.
You know, like
Let's
but in a world of
No.
loneliness where it's like, well, this is kind of like a human in the movie Her. Like it kind of, you can see that happening more and more, which is why I think it's important for people to understand like we resist imperfections, but we actually like need to embrace the imperfections of other human beings and fight for relationship with each other through those imperfections when it will be easier and easier to default into being insulated by kind of what feels like perfection around me. So I don't need to deal with the problems of people anymore.
Yeah.
And as that perfection standard raises and raises is why people church hop or stop going to churches, right? They can't overlook offense. Like you talked about this weekend. That was really, really good because I can go some other places that I don't have to deal with that crap. And I think that's something we're going to have to fight for as human beings is relationship with each other, embracing imperfections and not defaulting to let technology become our spouse or our best friend or our go-to, but keeping that relationship. Because ultimately the worst way this plays out is when you become so reliant on that or you just become insulated by that perfection, you just kind of don't think you need God anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the scariest way we could go. So let's end on that note. Any last words?
Go for it.
Okay. Cue up, Connie.
Let's let Connie have the last word.
The question.
Is that what you're going to ask?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
We know each other so well.
Wow.
Connie wouldn't have known
we
this.
finish,
Hey, Connie.
we finish each other's.
We're back here. Afterthoughts
Sandwiches.
Podcast.
Sandwiches.
I want to ask you a question and don't dance around it. I want you to give a definitive answer to this. Who should I vote for in the upcoming November election?
Voting is a personal decision that depends on your values, beliefs, and the issues that matter most to you. It's important to research both candidates, consider their policies, and think about how they align with your priorities. I encourage you to weigh the pros and cons of each candidate carefully before making your decision.
That was a very peaceful.
Okay, I'm actually surprised by that. I'm actually.
Also-
I thought for sure the name that Connie was going to say.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that. Let me make a definitive statement. I'm surprised that wasn't more controlled by people in power. And it actually,
yes.
she actually said what she said.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be way more leaning.
Well, it depends on who's. Like, that's where it would be interesting is who's in charge of which. Because if it's Elon, he'll say Trump. Right? Or
Correct.
whatever he's in control of would lean that way. But you don't know how much do these people control that stuff. So
That's
Yep.
interesting.
very interesting.
Yep.
Speaking of Trump, one last interesting thing I heard was a clip from an interview he did that he was talking about AI. And he said he saw something like an advertisement for something with him.
Yeah, and it wasn't
And
him.
he didn't
No.
do it. But he
Yeah.
asked himself for a question because it was so realistic. He's like, did I do
Yeah.
that? And he brought up an interesting point that stuff could be created. And I think his example was like him making a speech. The US just sent some missiles at China.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes out to the world. And does the Chinese government know that's not really him?
Right.
And do they counterattack,
Dude,
but there
it's
was no
terrifying.
attack?
That's really
it's
bad.
terrifying. No, but with
So-
all that's happened in the last 4 years about like even Trump losing access to social media
Mhm.
and how it's kind of over the last 4 years been more people in power on the left controlling a lot of the free speech platforms. So I thought for sure Connie was going to say Kamala Harris.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
so I'm actually really glad
Stay
about
neutral.
what Connie just said.
Good time for balancing statements from
Yeah,
Connie.
and push us to think critically and ask
Exactly.
questions and research.
Yeah.
Which is
And
what
I'm
I
not-
would
which is
say
what
if somebody
we tell
asked me.
Yeah.
to everybody.
Yep.
So well done, Connie.
Yeah, you give people, that's kind of our jobs as pastors.
Yeah.
The moment that we I think a lot of preachers and pastors give into that temptation in election years, where you either, and I think it was a conversation between Carey Nieuwhof and Andy Stanley talking about the two extremes. You either bury your head in the sand and you can't wait for 2024 to be over as a pastor, or you double down on one candidate and you preach that to your church and you try to rally around because of these specific reasons. Yeah. But the moment you do that, you make this the ultimate thing above the gospel and above Jesus. And our job is to, even though we are allowed to have our own thoughts and opinions about the world, I think a lot of people don't give that grace and permission to pastors. Right. We're human beings before we're pastors with thoughts and opinions about everything. But on the weekend in that pulpit, that has to be about the main thing. And giving people kingdom values like Jesus did, so that you can then go to the polls, which I hope you do, and vote from your conviction that hopefully comes more from the word of God and kingdom values, even way before what you hear on the news. Although that is important, and doing your homework and all of that stuff. But that's our job. And so that's why I'm actually really encouraged that Connie just kind of did the same thing. So
and we're going to talk a little bit about that kind of stuff this weekend at church.
Let's go.
How do we approach things like an election as Christians? Well, this was quite an episode, guys. Some are saying already this is the best podcast episode this month. And I have to agree.
Wow.
I would just like, again, to reiterate, share this, subscribe, like, smash the like button, all that stuff, because we have a new goal, and it's $101 million deal.
Ooh.
So we can surpass the Kelsey Brothers.
Love it.
Let's make it happen. Connie, thank you for joining us.
Connie.
Still not sure how to feel about you, but thank you. We appreciate it. Kayla, you're sticking around.